You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. Good evening. It is Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. I want to share with you something very serious that is forecast to develop this upcoming weekend. This is for Shabbos afternoon, and you may not read about this on the National Weather Service forecast discussion, at least for Chicago. I did not read about it. The Chicago National Weather Service forecast discussion makes mention of a storm system that could develop this upcoming Shabbos afternoon. But here's the thing. If you actually look at the computer models of this storm system, we actually look at the dew points and the conditions that one would think would be favorable for a storm development. It's totally amazing. You go to windy.com, go to the temperature category, and then go to dew point, and you'll see something that I'm putting it right now. I'm looking right at it, and we have it Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. So we have dew points at that time going into the low 60s in southern Illinois. Dew points in the low 60s. You have something phenomenal. St. Louis, Missouri, you have dew points in the mid 50s. Dew points will likely reach 60 there earlier in the day. This is due to the south flow of warm, moist air that's coming from the Gulf of Mexico right up the Mississippi River Valley. But it's not just that. We also have summer heat developing out in Oklahoma, northern Texas, even southern Kansas perhaps. This week, temperatures going into the 80s for large portions of Texas and Oklahoma. Even the southern portions of Kansas will be flirting with 80 degrees at least on 2 occasions this week. And for Saturday afternoon, that's when the real warm air is finally making its way a little bit further east than the Kansas area. The colder air is moving in. But we have an enormous contrast of temperatures. This is the concerning part. That's the vocabulary you would hear on the news, concerning. To weather enthusiasts, it's the opposite that would be concerning. But you look at the state of Illinois, and you'll see that the dew points are in the low 60s. Temperatures also in the low 60s for southern Illinois. So relative humidity 100%. And you go into the northern Illinois, here in Chicago, you have temperatures, the dew points are in the 20s, and temperatures are also in the 20s. The relative humidity is also 100%. Both the dew points and the temperatures are in the 20s. This is for Shabbos afternoon. And lo and behold, we have a low pressure system in the area while this is happening. Barometric pressure 29.65, located right over St. Louis, Missouri, 3 p.m. Shabbos afternoon, says the European computer model. Okay, now this brings a good chance for storms in the warm section of the storm system. But in the cold side, normally one would think this would be a powerhouse system. This thing one would think would develop, intensify into a powerhouse system. But as of right now, expert forecasts are not forecasting that to happen. They don't have confidence. They do think something's going to happen, and you probably will get some snowfall accumulation from this. But the two issues, this is the National Weather Service of Chicago, they focused on Wednesday's system. We actually have a system coming up this Wednesday, and they focus on the complications of this Wednesday system, and then they compare the Shabbos system to the Wednesday system. So that's how the National Weather Service is handling it. One just has to wonder whether there really is, whether the similarities are really all so similar, because you look on Wednesday's system, it's a little bit different. Chicago, Illinois, the European computer model, on one hand, you could say, well, there's a similarity, but on the other hand, the wind direction is from the southeast for Wednesday's system. But for this upcoming Shabbos afternoon, the winds are right off of the lake. That should cause lake enhancement. So, it's always difficult to go ahead and say that something's going to happen when expert forecasters don't have the confidence to include this. But we do have a storm system, the type of system that normally produces 6 to 12 inches in the bullseye here in the Midwest. that if you look at the computer models, that's what's developing for this weekend, for Shabbos and Sunday. The question is, where will that bullseye be? And why is the European computer model showing a little bit less snowfall than usual, not 6 to 12? But either way, a significant snow is forecasted to happen in the Midwest this upcoming Shabbos afternoon, Shabbos night, Sunday morning. Lake enhancement, perhaps even lake effect snow, could impact the Chicago area early Sunday morning. So this could be a significant snow, maybe even a very significant snow happening this Motzei Shabbos. That's just the beginning of a much broader snowy pattern that's expected to happen for next week. Next week, we made brief mention of this yesterday, but we should speak about it more. A lot of times when you're dealing with storms that are more than a week out, the GFS does an excellent job at advertising historical events, and it doesn't actually end up happening according to the way the GFS says, but it does bring to light a significant event at the very least. So they put it into the context of this being a forecast that's 10 days out, even more when you see the GFS computer model for the snowfall amounts across a similar area where the dew points will be in the 60s this Shabbos afternoon. You have snowfall amounts, very high amounts. That includes even Cincinnati, Ohio. They already had like a foot earlier from one storm earlier. So this one also, if you just look at the GFS model, but you can't really do much with the numbers, but the numbers are even higher than that for some of these places. But the European computer model does show that significant snow. It's a little bit of a different system moving over the Chicago area. So you go up, headed like around Thursday, to beshvat, somewhere around there. That's when we could be looking at another significant snow for the Chicago area. And again, you have the GFS and European computer model. How big will it be? Well, climatologically speaking, these storms, southern stream storms, 6 to 12 inches in the bullseye. The reason to say that maybe this one will be stronger is just because the GFS is advertising such enormous amounts. Yesterday, the GFS was advertising numbers that we rarely ever see. So, but the European computer model continues to forecast just like a normal, climatologically speaking, just a normal, powerful storm, the good old 6 to 12 inches in the bullseye. So we have a couple of them coming up over the next week. Chicago has not been in the action so far this winter, and this time around, Chicago may very well be in the action over here because at the very least, we have winds coming in off of the lake. Something also which we just mentioned, but we could focus more on, is just the intense heat. The intense heat in Oklahoma and Texas. Temperatures will likely go into the low 90s for some of these locations, even in northern Texas, later on this week. This is the time of the year you really get to see how strong the sun is already. The sun is much stronger this time of the year than the end of December, where sometimes we weren't even able to hit 80 anywhere in the United States. We were not able to hit 80 degrees, but we're already getting into the 80s, even close to 90, even in the states like Oklahoma. We spoke about Kansas, maybe 80 degrees. And the Arctic air is still super solid because it's still early February. So the contrast in temperatures is what gives land storms its energy. So, any one of these storms could really become really strong, and that's something that we're going to have to look out for. So, snow enthusiasts have what to look forward to, and stay tuned if this is something that interests you. The National Weather Service forecast discussions, you could read it for several cities. That's what I would recommend, not just for Chicago, but the track is not set in stone. So you'll have the Milwaukie National Weather Service. They will be talking about the same storm that the Chicago one will. St. Louis will be talking about the same storm. Cincinnati, all of them. And then you read them and you get a feel for all. Sometimes you might have an insight. Someone from one of these offices might have a phenomenal insight that's just like, whoa. Like, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. So, that's what's going on for this week. This week, we have a little system Wednesday morning or so. No one's really sure exactly what's going to happen. The worst case scenario is we have some freezing rain, which is a problem. But then the Shabbos afternoon, and then next week, there could be something big at the end of the week. Thank you for listening. I wish everybody wonderful. I just wanted to tell you some of the names of the songs that were playing in the background. We have the main one was Trans-Siberian Express, which is played by Luella Gren. We also had The Calm Before the Storm, Harper Barnes, Harperbarnes. And currently it's Natural Inclination, stems melody from Dream Cave. All of this comes from Epidemic Sound. And I believe that covers the background. And thank you for listening once again. And snow lovers can stay excited for this week and for next week. In fact, I'll just add on a little bit more, is that there's another system coming after the Tu B'Shvat system. There's another one at the tail end of that one, so there's even more to look forward to. One more, just say one more thing, is that we're currently at the anniversary of two major blizzards here in the Chicago area, the 2015, which occurred January 31st through February 1st or 2nd, and then the Groundhog's Day blizzard. It's common for people who are familiar with the Tu B'Shvat or Rosh Chodesh Shvat. It's common to have a change of weather pattern in Shvat. Chicago's been in the dry air up until now, but it looks like we're changing. There's been certain years where there's been a complete turnaround in the month of Shvat, and it really looks like that's what's happening. That's what it looks like. More moisture headed towards the Chicago area, systems like that. That's something which is a very real possibility that could be happening, and we'll just have to wait and see how this all materializes.